we need to give people what they need in order for them to pay us. Because if there's not an equal exchange of value, oh, it's horrible. And I was overgiving for so many years where I was resentful and it became an obligation.
Step into the world of success with your brand amplified, the ultimate podcast designed to unravel the intricacies of thriving businesses. I'm your host, Annika Jackson, and I'm on a mission to uncover the stories, strategies, and secrets that have propelled entrepreneurs and business leaders to success. Zach Oehlman, you are a man after my heart. I love what you do. I think finance is something that we all need more of in our lives, but the approach that you take, we hear think and grow rich, but you are learn and grow rich. And so you're offering service to so many people who need it. And that's really inspiring to me. So first and foremost, thank you for being here.
Thank you for the invitation. It's what I love to do, is just share the message.
Well, I want you to share away right here. So let's talk about your time, your project manager, and then you're in different areas of finance for your entire career. What was it that compelled you to go into this field and then to realize that you had a bigger gift to offer than working for other organizations?
Yeah, so what inspired me was I was broke. It started off with, I just want to make money so I don't have to struggle. And that was, as I've grown, I'll be 40 this year. And, you have different mountains as I grew older. And so the first thing I wanted to do, I just wanted enough money to have a decent life. And then I reached that. And then it was like, well, I want money to do this. And then as I grew, so did my vision. And what I've learned is, money is the gas to the car called, for the adventure of life. And so, I worked 10 years to get a job working for one of the best companies in the world. And it was sort of as far as I could see for vision. And I just kept working and working and working. And I got there and I did everything I could. I raised my hand to take on the biggest projects. I became a published author. I was just doing everything I could. And then one day I just had like this epiphany. I'm like, this is it. And, it was like I got to peek behind the curtain. And it was so unfulfilling. And so I was depressed. I had everything I wanted. I was depressed. And so I entered this world of personal development, and I've never heard of it. It was like, hey, you can actually change yourself. You can transform yourself. And at the time, I was the most unhappiest I have ever been in my life. I was drinking, just not taking good care of myself and very little sleep and just like running myself ragged. And so I started working on this thing called personal development. And I started creating a vision, and, deep down inside, I already had it. I just didn't know how to implement it. And, the vision was to change the world. And I realized, well, that's going to be a lot of money.
So it's a heavy lift.
A heavy lift. And so I quit my job and I entered into this world of real estate investing, because there was three things I wanted to do since I was a kid, like 16, 17 years old. It was travel the world, help people, and make money. And obviously the money was to do the first two. And so I just kept working on myself, kept buying programs, kept buying classes, kept expanding myself. And I was this socially awkward young man that couldn't put two sentences together in front of people. I would break out in a sweat. I would stutter. I would stammer. And so I kept really working on myself. I had a lot of the we'll call it the practical skills of finance, but I didn't know how that translated into world experience and decision making. And so I just kept working on myself. And eventually I became number 2 out of about, thousands of people in a direct sales company. And so I was on stages, I was traveling the world speaking, I was, doing those things that I saw in my mind. And so I did that, and, that was fulfilling, but I was like, there's something bigger in me. There's something more grand, because the people I was speaking to, it was more about real estate, and I was tying the personal development component to it. And the leadership of the company didn't really like that. They wanted to focus on more sales and this and that. And I was like, well, I'm not going to sell this to people that aren't ready for it, because there's a lot of people out there sharing this message of change your life, but they give them 30, 60, 90 days to do it. And I didn't feel that had integrity. I was like, if you really want to change your life, give me 5 years and give me your commitment. And it's not going to be about, you're not just going to be somebody that is broke today and rich tomorrow, right? And I think that's what a lot of people in the industry sell. And then people don't, it's so unrealistic. And so then people don't get the thing they were promised. And then they go internally and think it's their fault. And so I was bringing more of a realistic conversation and approach, and the leadership did not like that. And so I left. They were paying me 150 grand about for 4 hours a week. And I was like, it's not worth it because you lack integrity. Like the whole thing was just, they were selling a pipe dream to people and they weren't giving them the tools to fulfill on that dream. So I left that, and that's where Learn and Grow Rich started. I was in Bali and I just had this epiphany and for myself, I just feel like Learn and Grow Rich is really just a documentary of my life and when I learned to be fulfilled. And so I really had this conversation with myself, and it was, I cannot do anything. I cannot expand myself in any manner without learning something. It's like, I have what I have, and I have to learn how to use it, and I have to learn how to expand it. And that was sort of the epiphany into this conversation called Learn and Grow Rich. And then I stumbled upon there's a law, and it's escaping right now. I have it written down, but I think it's called, and essentially what it says is, if you want to become rich, go learn, go read a book, go expand yourself. But there was actually someone that created this law, and I've never heard of it until that moment. And I've spent so much time working on myself, but it was, if you want to actually grow rich, learn, 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 learn. And so I'll maybe send it to you after this because I don't want to spend time to look it up. But and so I'm just like, well, let's teach the people. And I'm like, well, if I want to, really make a global impact, I've been to the richest countries like Dubai, and I've been to some of the poorest places in the world. And the thing that differentiates them is education. And I said, well, I have this gift from God called education, and I spent a lot of money on it. I said, if I really want to make a difference, I'm going to give it away, right? I'm going to give it away because if, it's not mine, I feel like I was really bestowed something, and it's like, I'm going to give it away. And then I want to help the people that are ready to receive my gift. Because one of the things I really noticed, I spent 15 years leading a community of people that wanted to be entrepreneurs, business owners, and real estate investors. And what I saw was they weren't ready for the gift. They were second graders trying to be in a PhD level program. And I said, no, you got to go to third grade, and you got to go to fourth grade, and you got to go through the process. And I said, the challenge is the gift that I have now that I've developed over 20 years of working on myself, you can't afford it, and you're not ready for it. And so I said, I'm just going to give everything I have away, the vision setting, anything that I've picked up over the years. And so I've done that in school, and I'm continuing to expand that. And I'm just really getting on YouTube, and just so people know the path that they're walking before they go buy some expensive program that overpromises and is only a piece of the journey. Right. So that was what happened to me. They're like, oh, this is it, Zach. This is going to be it. I spend the money, I get the credit card out, and then it's like, it ain't it. And then I go to the next one. It ain't it. It ain't it. But together, collectively, it was the path. The challenge was I didn't know that going into it. And so what my goal is and my vision is just to set the appropriate expectations and let people know what it looks like to actually change your life, transform your life, and live the life of your dreams. So that's the essence of Learn and Grow Rich.
Well, you said so many key things. And I think one thing as entrepreneurs, we do have a tendency, we want to learn, we have a growth mindset. We also are putting a lot of energy into achieving our dreams. But sometimes you might reach the pinnacle of what you think is your dream, like you said, and you realize, wait, there's something more that I'm missing. And I found this in my own life as well. And in many of the conversations I have with people who come on the show, where we achieve things and keep achieving and achieving. But at the same time, while we're growing, we also may be having the shiny object, syndrome, and we chase a program that okay, this is the be all end all. This is going to help me reach this part of my goal. But you still have to do a lot of work. You still have to put the time into the program if
They
it
don't,
really is one that is going to help you with part of that. But the people who sell these programs do make it seem like instantaneous. You don't have to do anything. You just do this, and you're done. And that's not the truth of the matter. And so, like you, the more I learn, the richer I feel, the more knowledge I feel like I have, and the closer I am to meeting my future vision and being on the right path.
right. Yeah. Because the other thing is very few people focus on the emotional intelligence side. And so there's this quote I read. It says, emotional intelligence accounts for like 85% of your success. Intellectual opens the door. Intellectualness opens the door. But if you cannot understand emotions yourself and other people, because where does money come from? Money comes from another human being. That's it. It's not like made up. It's like you're providing a value to another human being and they have to want to give you that money. And so if you don't understand what they need, they're not going to give you anything, right?
Yeah. And it's part of you understanding what they need. It's part of them also, like you said as well, them being ready to receive it at the right time. And that's something that I think a lot of people forget. And sometimes then as entrepreneurs, we undersell ourselves, we underprice things because we're like, oh, but it's not us realizing, well, they're not ready for this step. And I need to hold my value because the people who are ready, to your point, will walk in the door. They'll want to have those conversations. That'll create even more opportunities for us. And one of the other things that you said about other countries, I talk a lot, not a lot, but maybe a little bit often about I'm Thai, Lao, and American, and I have dual citizenship. And when we talk about being rich or having wealth, what is fantastic in one country is different in another one. I know I can go to Thailand today. I'll live like a queen, but I'll also have access to great healthcare at my fingertips. I'll have access to healthy, fresh food that is made from whatever's available that day.
I'm in Medellin, Colombia right now. And so I've lived in 24 countries and this is my favorite places. I was actually in Thailand and yeah, it's like the richness when I was in Thailand is like, let's just go eat. Let's just go experience the markets. And, down here in Colombia, I have the freshest food. I can live like a king for like $3 to $4 grand a month. And it's like, I can have access to, we have our own private massage therapist down here. We have cleaners. We have, the people that take care of the stuff so we can focus on our craft. And it doesn't cost, it's almost nothing, but it's like the perception of wealth. Like for me, wealth is having the time to do what I want and just feeling good. I have peace of mind. I have joy and fulfillment in my work. That's for me, that's wealth.
Amazing. And Medellin is a place that I know a lot of people are going to right now. I probably have a handful of friends and colleagues down there. So I love the fact that when we think about these concepts, we think about what we really want, it also expands our willingness to live at other places, to learn other cultures, to make that part of our learning experience and figure out that living in LA, I have multiple gigs, all of which I love, but I also look at how am I going to continue streamlining my life so that I can have the flexibility and the freedom to learn, continue growing, to continue iterating things that will help other people on their paths. And total side note, I actually gave a presentation workshop on emotional intelligence over the weekend for a group of community volunteers. And we talked about that and we talked about different constructs and ways to like just get yourself out of your comfort zone sometimes, whether it's go take a break and go sit out in sunshine for a few minutes.
That's what I did this weekend. I spent 6 days at a retreat up in the Colombian mountains and just to sit, there's this beautiful waterfall with stream. And it's like just to sit in the sand and feel like nature, the sand, the birds, the air, just all of that energy that goes with it is, that's grounding. That's where I feel like that's where we came from and we lose connection. Even me, right? It was a reminder that I need to do it more.
Oh, absolutely. Now, take us back to that epiphany when you decided to leave the company you were at that was paying you very well to work only a few hours a week, which to me and to many people sounds like a dream, right? Unless it's not in alignment with who
Right.
you are. What was it like moving from that to deciding to go all in on yourself and then build up a free business, essentially, right? Giving away a lot of knowledge, then working with people when they're ready for it, but building up your brand and this concept of learn and grow rich.
I think the first thing is we have to identify what it is that we want, because so many things are put on us, right? They're like, go to school, go get a job, go do this, go do that. And it's like, okay, that's what I should do. This is what I should do. And I for my whole life, I've had people telling me what I should do. And it's like, well, obviously I knew what I want to do, travel the world, help people make money, but like, how do you fulfill in that? And so I worked for one of the best finance companies in the world. And that was about 15 years ago. And then I went into this direct sales company where I was selling a real estate investing mastermind, and I did very well in that. And so they invited me to be on the board, and that's where they were paying me. It was a percentage of what I earned, but it equated to about $150,000. And that was a board position and a leadership position. But what I saw in that is I worked my tail off to get there, thinking that they had the answer, like thinking I was going to get a seat at the table and that they were going to have the proverbial insight, the playbook for the next level. And what I learned was it was a crap show. Like, I remember I got in there and there was zero leadership, and there were just, blame and zero responsibility. And it was toxic. It was absolutely toxic. And it was like, is this it? Is this the world I said I wanted? And it got to a point where, they were blaming others and blaming me. And I'm just like, okay, well, I have a principle called personal responsibility. So I'll take responsibility. Let me go deal. So I'd go spend more time on myself. And what I learned was, without leadership, there was definitely leadership missing there. And they quit working on themselves, right?
Yeah. They became complacent.
They were stuck in the 80s. I'm telling you, like 90s or what, I don't know. They were stuck wherever it is that they sort of thought they arrived, and they quit expanding themselves. They quit growing. And so it became a toxic environment, so much it was bleeding into my life. And I said, I got to cut the cords. The challenge was, that's all I left corporate, and this was the only thing I knew. And so the next sort of leap was fully out into myself. And so in order to do that, it took me a moment. Because I went from being the guy on the stage to a guy, I was like, people didn't buy the program I was selling. People bought me. And I really realized that. And I was like, okay, how can I tell these people I'm out after they just spent this money? And so it took me like 3 years to fully remove myself. So I went from the front of the stage. I resigned from the leadership board to the front row, to the middle, to the back of the room, to the where is Zach, right? And to this day, I still honor everything I sold. We still have a call that people run, because I said I was going to be here forever. So we're still here for the people. We just shut the doors, right? We didn't let anyone else in. And so I learned the importance of leadership and integrity and being your word. And I said, I can't let all of these people down that I sold a vision to step into something new. Like, that's just going to be a super lack of integrity. And so I had to find who I was, and I had to find my self-expression. I had to really step up my leadership and get really present to what is it that I'm going to bring to the world. And, I said, well, I'm great at finance. This is my passion. And I was told to put it on the shelf, that it had zero value. That was what I was told by this leader of this company. Because I pitched him the idea. I said, well, I could bring this. People are really missing it. And his response was, well, I think you should just sell more of my stuff. And there was just this conflict of it. And so I said, well, I know how to sell. I know how to market. I know how to run a business because I was essentially doing that in this direct sales company. I just need my own thing to sell. And so I created a framework on how to start, scale, and sell businesses that I've learned over 20 years of my own experience. And I said, it starts with finances. If you don't have your finances in order, you're not going to get out of the gate. And so what we do is we help people create a vision. Because most people, one of the things I learned in 15 years of being in that company was almost nobody knows what they want. They want more money. They want more freedom. They want, the surface level stuff that, I went through that phase too. But when I said, okay, what do you really want? What are you going to do with that money? What are you going to do with that time? What are you going to do with that freedom? They just look at me completely blank. I've had people cry when I said, what do you want? And they're just like, I don't know. I've never had to deal with that. And they're like, oh, well, I want 10 grand a month. I was like, for what? I want time to spend with my family. What are you going to do with your family? Right. And then we're sold this vision of that we're going to spend a life of retirement. And that is so unfulfilling. Like I've done that. I've sat on the beaches. I've done this stuff. And it's like, what am I here for? Like just to rot away in the sun, drinking a margarita? Like that's unfulfilling. Is it nice? It's absolutely nice for a moment. Like go take a breath, go get your wind back, go get your next vision, go get the next steps. But the reality is we're here to do something as humans. The question is what? And so I feel I'm here to bring the world of finance to people because I call it the message and the math. The message is, what do you want to do with your life? The math is, well, let's put a plan together and make sure the finances work in order to bring that message to the world. Because very few people, I will say very few people do both of them, but like the message, what do you want to do with your life? Almost no one has that. And I've meet even less people that have the math to it, the budgets, the projections, what's the actual amount of money you need to live the life of your dreams. And so I feel I'm just here to bring the numbers to make it real. Because once you put numbers to it with a timeline, it now becomes a plan. And now you know where you need to be. And now you're like, hey, am I on course? And I had to do everything I'm sharing, I had to go through. It isn't like I just had this. It was just like I'm struggling so much and I'm such a driver in my life. And I felt so behind. But behind to what? Until you have a budget and a plan, you have no path to be on. And so creating that budget and the plan now gives us a pathway, a trajectory to align with. And then we can go, are we on course or are we off course? If we're on course, take the weekend off and go play around a golf, go take a trip, go do whatever it is that you're here to fulfill yourself. And if you're not on path, course correct. Adjust the plan. Maybe you had some bad assumptions. And so through that, what I've learned in that 15 years is the importance of great mentorship. And what do I mean by that? The people that I hung around for that 15 years, I feel they were more interested in using me to fulfill their vision as opposed to helping me find and fulfill mine. And so after I left that, it took me about a year to like sort of decompress that because I was so deep in it. But looking back, I felt so used, right? And how they were using me to fulfill their vision. And every time I wanted to try to step out and fulfill my vision, they would just like try to yank me back into their vision. And there was this anger and this resentment in me, but I didn't know what to do next. Right. And finally, one day I said, it got so much. I just said, I'm leaving and I'm going to figure it out. And then I surround myself today with people who actually want me to discover myself and who Zach is and my expression in the world so that I can bring my message to the world.
And that is partly being an entrepreneur, right? We feel stifled when we are working for other people sometimes. And I go in and out of, and people who've listened to the podcast have heard this probably before, of being fully employed for somebody else, living their vision, but also having other things such as podcasting, teaching that really fulfill me and figuring out is there a balance where I can still do this thing right now while I'm working on the things that I know I can not only fulfill myself, but help other people achieve their goals and their dreams through what they can learn, for instance, from the podcast or when I'm teaching courses at USC. And another part that you mentioned is that not a lot of people know their vision. And of course, I'm on the side of marketing, communications, PR. So we always start with, who are you as a brand? What is your purpose, mission, vision, values? What does that mean for you? How does that mean you're going to move through life? And then, of course, you create, little achievable action steps. But I feel like that goes really well with what you're teaching and the finance side of things too, because then, okay, this is what you want to do. And then how do you financially set your goals?
Yeah, I just put numbers to visions. That's all I do. That's all I do. Yeah. And that's so important. We hear it when all of these lessons I've gone through, I hear them from the great leaders, but you don't understand the importance of them. And so today I'm all about vision, values, and principles and mission. And I don't think people should go be an entrepreneur without having those in place, because they're just going to get caught up in the whirlwind of people selling their stuff. And so I think one of the best, I tell people, don't quit your job. I say, understand who you are and understand where you want to go, and then go get a job developing yourself in the skill sets required to eventually do it on your own. Because there are not words that can describe how hard it is. As you probably know, this is the toughest thing I ever had to do. And I quit my job way too early. I was in my 20s, working for one of the best companies in the world, making six figures. Like, I had opportunity galore, but I got connected with people that said jobs are bad. You're working for the man, this nonsense. And I believe it's absolute nonsense. What I do believe is that people get caught up in somebody else's vision, and they don't take the time to learn who they are and what they want. And so then they go take a job that doesn't align with their vision and their values and their purpose and who they want to become. And they're not developing themselves in the skill set, and they're not growing into that person. And that is that upset and that frustration and that thwartedness and that restriction that we feel as people that just want to never continuously expand. Because I have people that work for, I've never had anyone quit my companies because what I do with them, because I said, I want to be different, is I say, what do you want out of life? Who do you want to become? How much money do you want? What do you want to get developed in? What lights you up? And then I create a plan and a path for them inside of my company to help them become the best person that they can be and who they want to be. I do not put my restrictions on who I think they should be. And I think when we talk about this world of job and W-2, I think that's what people are used to, is the restrictions of the owners and the management of who they should be. And it stops expanding, because there's no way to prepare someone to be an entrepreneur other than go work for a great person in a great company that aligns with who you are, and you'll learn what it takes. And then eventually one day you'll be able to step into that role with peace and not have to go through all the stress and the anxiety and the running out of money. Oh my God, I've done it, right? And all that other stuff you hear about. It doesn't have to be that way.
So you're well equipped in some ways, and it sounds like also not as equipped in other ways, to leave your cushy job and start your own company, right?
I was totally not equipped. I jumped. I jumped, and I almost drowned, because it's like I sucked at sales and marketing. I did not have that emotional intelligence. And so I had no idea what it would take to turn the faucet on called make money. And the only way you can make money is by selling something. And I was not equipped as a salesman, and I was not equipped as a marketer. And so I had to really struggle to learn that without those two things, money does not come.
Yeah. You iterated, you figured out what you wanted to put into the world.
Yeah.
And was it always free? Or did you start out with, I have to get clients in who are paying me to do this, and then I will be able to offer a lot of free resources to people to then get them prepared to work with me?
Yeah. So I was, I left my corporate job for a direct sales company. And that direct sales company was selling a very high end real estate investing education. And their mantra was, we're family. I was sort of, like, hey, we're here to help people out, which sounds really great. But as a business model, it's absolutely horrible because what they did was they say, okay, well, you get to sell something one time. And after that, you can't sell them anything else. And so I got stuck in this trap of selling a vision that I had to perpetually deliver, but I couldn't get compensated for. And so I felt I was trapped because these people bought this education. And then, we don't realize how much support is needed to actually help somebody achieve a goal and a vision. And so I had two options: either pull out and break my promise, right? Because they bought this thing from me, or deliver on it. And so I kept delivering and delivering essentially for free. And I knew it wasn't the way, but I got trapped because they wouldn't let me sell anything else. And it was sort of like this. And so what I've learned over the years is we have to understand, and it's an evolution, right? Is we need to give people what they need in order for them to pay us. Because if there's not an equal exchange of value, oh, it's horrible. And I was overgiving for so many years where I was resentful and it became an obligation because the same message I was delivering for $50 a month, people pay me $7,000+ a month to actually do and implement. What's the key? It's a different person, right? It's a different person and they value my message. And so that's key is like understand who you are, understand what is the solution that you're providing, what is the problem that you're solving, and who is that person you're going to provide that to. Because you cannot provide a $7,000 solution to someone that can only afford a $50 a month, right? And so I got really present to who am I serving? And then I said, well, I'm just going to give, I just feel like this internal responsibility to help everyone, but I also realize that doesn't mean they get my time. And so what I said is I'm just going to give the information that I've learned myself and developed myself and just, my experience of my own life. I'm going to give that away because I can create a free video or a free post or, I create it once and I put it out into the internet and they can have it for free. The people that want my time, they're going to pay me what I'm worth. Right. And so depending on where you're at in the world, eventually, we all sell our time no matter what, where the question is, who are we selling it to and can they afford it? And do they see it is how we value it. And then all that other stuff, learning systems and teams or process, I deliver on my work. I've created systems, processes, and structures so that I don't have to be the one to deliver the solution. We have accountants, we have CPAs, we have lawyers, we have trusted, like all of these, the professionals that we actually need to implement it. And my value is helping people understand their vision and understanding which brick they need to use to build that beautiful vision to bring it into the world. And then we get paid very, very handsomely to put that picture together. And so that's why today I can afford to give all of this stuff away, because the people that can't afford it, they need it. I really believe they need it. So they don't get stuck buying these expensive programs that aren't the solution for the problem that they have. And they can keep that money in their pocket so they can spend the time and develop themselves emotionally and develop their vision.
Well, I'd love to hear a little bit about results from some of the people you've worked with, whether it's people who've followed your online freemium content, who've given you testimonials, or the person who is spending more money and more intention, right, to work closely with you and how that has changed their lives.
Yeah. And so the testimonies all come back down to, I have clarity and vision. Thank you for the clarity and the vision. We've had people quit their jobs and travel the world. We've had people that have kept their job and just took a different perspective on life. We've had people that have removed themselves from the day-to-day business. Those are my favorite, right? Because that's what I always wanted. I wanted to build this machine called a business, and then I wanted to remove myself from it. The challenge is I kept trapping myself in it. And that's not a business, that's self-employed. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a journey on the way. But, you know, for me, I love helping people get clarity and vision. And then love helping people get that. And so, I'm just trying to think of some of my favorite wins are the newbies where they realize they don't have to go and spend all that money on these things. And they go, okay, you know what? I actually have some freedom and peace of mind that I'm on the right course. And I'm going to go read that book and I'm going to go take that program. And I'm not going to destroy myself and think I'm less than. So that's one end of the spectrum, like the entry level, more freebie, more conversations like that. I mean, I've had people that said, I went to some of the best business schools in the world and I didn't understand finance and vision setting and planning like I do after your free course, right? And then we go on the other end of the spectrum and we'll call it the wealth, the actual bank account money. And I've had people that they've removed themselves from their businesses and now they get to spend time doing the things that they love, traveling the world, giving back to their charitable foundation, spending time with their kids and, passing these lessons on to their kids. And that could only be done if they had the bank account to do it. And so, we have that and then everything in between.
Yeah, fantastic. So what does your day-to-day look like?
My day-to-day, oh my gosh. So I am blessed. I actually created this process. It's called Vision to Reality. And it's like you create your dream day and then you put a number to it. And then you create your adventure list and you put a number to it. So you can actually, it's like there's something tangible. And so I'm blessed. Starting actually this month, I have about 5 to 6 hours of mandatory calls that I have to be on all week. So I got my schedule down. I went through my calendar. I said, does this align with my vision and my values and my mission? And if it didn't, I'd cut it out. And so I spent about 5 to 6 hours on actual meetings for businesses and with clients. And the rest of my time is spent working on my vision, working on myself, developing my team. And so I wake up in the morning about 6:30 and I have my dog picked up. So I just got a beautiful puppy. It's an Australian healer. And so the dog bus comes and picks him up at about 6:30 in the morning. So I walk him and send him off to daycare, doggy care. And then I come back in and I meditate and I journal and I get really present I'm reminded of why I'm here on this planet and what is my intention. And so I love to journal and I love to create. And so in the mornings, I spend a lot of time creating content or creating plans and budgets for my clients, the creative space in the morning. And then, come mid-afternoon, I'll go train my dog. So I ride my motorcycle and I go to the dog training school and I'll train him. And then I come back and I'll have maybe a light brunch or lunch. I don't really eat a whole lot during the day. And then I'll get back to, emails, more of the less creative type work, the more administrative. So I'm replying to emails, replying to people on Slack and doing things like that. And then I have my own personal massage therapist that he'll come over 3 to 4 days a week and give me a massage and just really be in that space of relaxation and enjoyment. And I'll take a moment to, just sort of be with the day. And I live right out here. I have this beautiful park right next to me. I'll just listen to the birds and get really present and just keep filling myself with joy and just the gratitude for the life that I have. And then I'll do some more work. It may be finishing up a project I'm working on, but and then I spend time with my wife at the end and then I'll have a nice dinner. I sort of eat later, try to have one big meal towards the end of the day and learn something, watch a podcast, listen to some YouTube, plan my next adventure, just in the creation space, but more from a personal standpoint, something that maybe caught my eye about a motorcycle or a trip or an adventure that I want to take on. And then, I'll wrap up the day with a nice meditation and go to bed.
It sounds lovely. You're fitting everything in that you want to.
It's definitely a life by design. It's intentional.
Fantastic. And what is the best place for people to get access to your free resources, learn from you, and then, perhaps get to that pivotal moment where they can say, yes, I'm ready?
Yeah, so that would be my website, learnandgrowrich.net. So you can get my access to my free school there. You can book a call with my team to see if you're ready for that conversation with us, to actually start working with us. You can, we're just getting ready to start. I have a YouTube channel, but we're getting really intentional about it starting this month. So you can go there, but all of that will be at my learnandgrowrich.net website.
Fantastic. Zach, do you have a favorite quote, mantra, verse, family motto, any words that continue to inspire you on this lovely path that you've set forth?
I have so many. I think the thing that would contribute here would be my principles. And so my principles that I live by is intention, personal responsibility, integrity, dream big, and do the work. And so every time I'm struggling in life or sort of feel down, I go, where am I out of alignment? Right? But in order to be in alignment, you need a purpose, you need a mission, you need a vision. And so I would say get really present on where you're guiding this ship, right? Because if you don't know where you're going, and you hear it over and over again, but like, figure out what you want. My life that I just shared, I literally wrote that down. And I said, my wife laughed at me. I said, honey, one day I'm going to have my own private, I love massages. I said, I'm going to have my own private massage therapist. And, I worked my butt off and I made it happen. I sat it down and I figured it out. And we're paying, I was just talking with my COO today. We're paying for him to go to more schooling for different modalities. And we're just keep on, but that would only happen if I would, because I took the time and I said, this is what I want my life to look like. And then you got to plan, okay, well, how do I get there? Because this is actually what I want to leave people with. You can't do anything in life without a budget and a plan. You cannot do anything. You can't go to dinner tonight without a budget and a plan. Everything we do requires a budget and a plan. And we typically do those except for our life. So figure out your budget and figure out your plan and then put a budget to it. That's what I want to leave people with.
Okay. Well, that's fantastic advice. And it's a good reminder to all of us to think about what we really want, what we value, what it looks like, right? That vision that isn't so far away if we take the right steps.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you, Zach. This has been really fun. I feel really calm and at peace, even more than I was earlier. Just from having this conversation, you have a really great air and spirit about you. And I can tell that you do everything with a lot of integrity and intentionality.
Yeah. It's just like ingrained. I have a beautiful coach and I've been with her for almost 6 years. And she is not easy on me. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that she doesn't let me get away with anything. She just instilled intention and responsibility in me.
Fantastic. Well, thank you to Zach, and thank you to everybody who is watching this episode or listening to it on your favorite platform. I'll be back again with another amazing guest to share their story, their journey, and some advice for you to not only think about, but to follow to make your life a little bit better every day. Thanks for listening or watching to this episode of Your Brand Amplified. Don't forget to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast listening platform. And if you want to learn more, check us out at yourbrandamplified.com.